Hi everyone, my name is Tara Westbelt and today's Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our book of the week, which is 13 by Steve Cavanagh. First, this is a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't read this book yet, don't worry about it, it won't be spoiled for you here. There will be some spoiler-related things that I want to discuss, but that'll be later on in the video, and you will get plenty of warning. If you'd like to join in on any of the discussions, send me your thoughts, comments, or even a short video clip of you discussing the book, then I'll list the next upcoming 4 books in the description below. I rated 13 3 stars. I thought it was okay, certainly not bad, and there were moments that I did really enjoy. However, overall it just didn't completely hook me. The concept is what drew me in straight away. I mean, the killer being on the jury I thought was a really good concept for a legal thriller. But looking back now, even though there wasn't a ton of technical or legal jargon or information, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more if it was less about that and a little more about the killer's POV. So obviously, because this book is part of a larger series in this world, that wouldn't really work, but it would work really well, I think, as a standalone. But while I liked the setup, I did find the pacing a little bit slow. There were moments where I was really gripped, and then others where it felt a lot slower and it lost my attention a little. I almost wish that the story had gone a little bit simpler. I mean, it was such a good concept that I don't think it necessarily needed all those extra layers. That being said, it did all come together really nicely in the end, and it was a really good ending. Okay, so a quick summary. This book kind of follows Eddie, who is a defence lawyer and former con artist, who is particularly drawn to this high-profile murder case involving a Hollywood star who is accused of unaliving his wife. But there's a deadly twist, because one of the jurors isn't there to deliver justice, he's there to kill. If I had to compare this to any other book, I would probably say something like The Silent Patient, because of its psychological intrigue, its slow build, as well as its tension that's in a more confined space. I might also say something like The First Lie Wins, because of its deception and intrigue. I think it's a very smart, kind of cinematic kind of thriller, and so I can see why it's quite popular. However, while I did enjoy it and I thought the ending was quite good, it just didn't grip me quite as much as I'd hoped. So let's talk a little bit more about what I think worked and what didn't without giving too much away. I actually quite liked Eddie as the main character. I mean, he's flawed and scrappy and he's clearly been through quite a lot. I mean, there's some highs and certainly some lows for him throughout this story. And while I did appreciate seeing some of that depth, I don't feel like I ever really got to know him. There wasn't any of that emotional pull that really makes you invest in a character. But that could also be because it's part of the series, one where you could technically read them as standalones. Like, I do find it super common to feel that way towards characters in those sort of books, like detective books, where you're technically following them throughout this entire series, but beyond surface level stuff, you don't really build a connection to them. The writing itself is clear and easy to follow, however, I do find switching POVs a little distracting. Like, alternating between Eddie's and others, including the killer's perspective, can work really well in thrillers. It's just not my favourite. And I think a part of that is because I wasn't hooked enough by any one character to feel excited about switching to their POV. That said, I do think that the author did a great job of setting up tension in the courtroom scenes. Like, usually I don't think that they would be my favourite parts, however, I think they were very well done without feeling like you were getting too much legal jargon. Overall, I thought it was an interesting story with a great concept. I just don't necessarily feel like it reached its full potential. So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? I think I would, but with a few caveats. If you love a simple, easy-to-read legal thriller that likes to weave through multiple perspectives, then you might have a really good time with this one. I mean, the concept alone makes it worth picking up. But if you're like me and you need a more fast-paced, character-driven thriller where you can immediately feel invested, then you might find that this one drags in places. I do just think that this book is one of those where your enjoyment really just depends on what kind of thriller reader you are. So will I be reading any more by Steve Cavanagh? Yeah, I actually think I would. I mean, even though 13 didn't completely blow me away, I liked enough about his writing style and his ideas to be intrigued as to what else he's written. Like, I have heard great things about some of his other books, and I do think that he has a knack for writing some clever storytelling. So while this one might not be 5 stars for me, I'm definitely intrigued enough to see what else he's written. So earlier on in the video, I said that you would get plenty of warning for any upcoming spoilers. This is that moment, so if you haven't read this book yet, I would suggest going doing that first, because beyond this point, there will absolutely be spoilers. I think this idea of having the murderer on the jury was genius. I think that that's what really makes this book stand out, and I don't know, it gave it this constant level of unease, and when you thought that you knew what was going on, something else was revealed. I do think Kane himself was a really interesting character. He was intelligent, manipulative, and really detached morally. But at the same time, I feel like we didn't always get the level of tension that I feel like I wanted from him. Like, it felt like sometimes we were being told how clever and dangerous he was rather than being shown. But perhaps that is just the part of me who is happy reading much darker books. The courtroom scenes were definitely where I felt most engaged, especially where the tension and the stakes were building more towards the end. But again, I do feel like it lost a little bit of momentum in the middle, and it did take a while to build for me. By the time the ending came around, it was all wrapped up really neatly with a satisfying ending, but it didn't hit me as hard as it could have. But I also kind of found myself wishing for more of a focus on the morality of the situation, like how terrifying it is for someone to be able to infiltrate the justice system like that. I think there was just so much potential to dig up the more psychological side of this book, whereas I think that it only just sort of skimmed the surface. Still, I really did enjoy the concept. So overall, 13 had some really solid moments and a great concept. It just didn't fully deliver for me. It was a good read, but not a great one. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week, we're discussing Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, so don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by Sunday the 19th of October at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram or Discord. The following week will be a Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, but don't forget if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below, along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you, and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, it's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye! If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message.